So are you a yoga manager? Is that the deal?
I am a manager in the banking sector, and what I am also on the side is an author of this novel. It seeks to bridge the world of yoga philosophy and modern management. And it's written as a business novel. So what it is it introduces you to all the core concepts of yoga philosophy. How the body is 5 sheets of consciousness, 7 chakras, 8 branches. All of that's included in the book. And how would you apply it in a business or corporate setting, or to, in general, the industry. So let's take...
Sounds interesting, yeah.
Thank you, thank you. And what I'd like to do is walk you through one of my models.
Let's do it.
So this is an original framework from the Yogic Manager.
Okay.
And what it's about is, talks about how in the philosophies, the human life should be lived in 4 phases, 4 ashrams as they call it. So you start off your life as a student. The first fourth of your life, you are pretty much a student.
Okay.
Your means of advancement on earth is through education. So the education actually comes from the external world. So you're reading, you're listening, you're studying.
Online, Facebook.
Exactly. Whatever the means are, it's coming from the external world. And that's why this is linked to the second chakra out of 7, because that's all about where you can absorb the senses and whatnot.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yes.
I see.
And then a point comes when you decide to go beyond student. You start working. Maybe you run your own business. Maybe you work for a corporation. Either way, you are now a part of society. And now it's all about the third chakra. It's about power. It's about giving back. Doing something in this society. Like you're contributing to society.
Oh, I see, yeah.
But your contributions are still limited in scope. So I call this a small I because it's all about you, and this one is the big I because your means of advancement are through your work, but the focus is still on the individual, on the ego. So I say, the focus is gratification of ego, the false self.
Okay.
But then a point comes in people's lives. Sometimes it's a midlife crisis, sometimes something happens where the 4th chakra, the heart opens up. And that's like a roadblock in our consciousness. Once that opens, it goes beyond the I. It becomes love. So you have an L. You go beyond prosperity and results. You talk about philanthropy, about righteousness, ethics, things like that.
Saving the planet.
Pretty much, something like that. Now what's happened is your means are still work. You're still doing it through your karma or your work. But your scope goes beyond the ego towards the spirit, the atma or the soul. So it's an L, and when you're in that phase, when you're in the philanthropist phase, you're talking about society, the earth. Now let's take for example someone like Andrew Carnegie. Andrew Carnegie, a fantastic, very, very successful industrialist. He literally was an immigrant, poor guy from Scotland, came to the United States, built one of the biggest industries, was the 2nd richest man on earth. A point came in his life where he decided to go beyond being an industrialist to being a philanthropist. And that clearly states that something happened. The heart was open. And now he's built institutions like Carnegie Mellon University, Carnegie Hall, Carnegie Libraries. They last hundreds of years. So that's now the 3rd phase of life. But in yoga philosophy, there's a 4th phase. In this one, it deals with the 3rd eye. Now that's a second roadblock. Once the 3rd eye is open, you literally go beyond the physical plane of consciousness towards the spiritual plane. That's when it becomes like a U. Back to the universe, back to source. A U-shaped life. And in this case, again, your means of advancement are through education. But the education is not through your external senses. It's from within. It's from your soul. It's intuitive wisdom. And that's what it is in a nutshell, a model for the purposeful life.
So what inspired you to do this in the first place, or write the book?
Well, 2008 is when we started having a crisis in the financial sector. I work in the sector, and I had just graduated with an MBA from Queens, and I was wondering, what more is there? Is there something? It seemed like something was missing. So I ended up doing some research. I was just reading books, trying to figure out answers. Never really had an intention to write a book. But then these ideas kept coming into my mind, and I was noting them down. And within a few years, I started researching, and I just published it all.
So what are people saying about the book?
Well, people have been giving me good feedback from all over the world. Lots of folks like the fact that it introduces them to a lot of core concepts. It opens up their mind to think of yoga beyond just the exercises and the breathing, because there's a whole philosophical school. So yoga is a lot vaster than that. And a lot of folks like to apply it to their work or their life. So I get a lot of feedback from folks.
What's your name?
My name is Avinash Sharma.
Okay. So Avinash, let me ask you this. You mentioned the spiritual, right? People actually go through the L there, and then they go back and have a better education from another point. But right now, these days, since the earth has changed a couple of years ago, there's the major shift from what I see is that the third eye is already opening up, especially the young children today. So how would you address, how do you place that in the model here?
Yes,
Because they're starting with that now.
Yeah, so those who you can consider those who have a third eye already open as kind of psychic. They're born with a gift which most of us don't have. Now, some of them may be tempted to go straight from student phase to spiritualist. They may be tempted to do that. But according to the scriptures, it's not a full life unless you're doing service, which a lot of monks have done. A lot of monks have gone straight from student to spiritualist, and they've dedicated their lives to service. But the right way to do it is start off as a professional and then a philanthropist and then finally make it to the spiritualist.
So let me ask you this, Evidence. Will this help people become millionaires? Having a better understanding of themselves and Ayurvedic philosophy?
It might help them become millionaires, but the motive is more than money. It's to give them some degree of peace and to make their lives and their actions more conscious and to make it more balanced for not just the self, but for the earth, for society. Go beyond the self.
All right, so for more information, your website?
yogicmanagement.com. Yeah.
Good, thank you.
So when the strike happened, that was it.